Hello and welcome to day one of your 30-day yoga journey, Spring Awakening, with me, Noelle. I am super excited that you're here, and day one, we're jumping right in. I explore. So that's today's mantra. So repeat it back to yourself in your mind whenever we're maybe doing a transition from one asana to another. Just repeat to yourself, I explore. So, yoga is all about this idea of union. That's what yoga means, union of your mind, your body, and your spirit. And on this journey, we're going to play with this idea of union and curiosity. I really want to start off with this idea of bringing back almost like a childlike curiosity. So, today in particular, I'm going to take us through some very generic, some down dogs and tabletop positions, and find this idea of exploration within our alignment. And throughout the journey, we're going to explore the earth elements. So, earth, the first week, so week one, which we're starting right now, we're going to really focus on this idea of rooting down, grounding down, starting from the ground up. And then we're going to get into the water element. And once the spring equinox comes around, we're going to do alignment and equilibrium-esque classes. And we're going to end our series with air. So this idea of openness. And I'm very excited. So let's just get started and settle in. And before any practice during this series, please bring your blocks or your straps, books, blanket, whatever you need, whatever you think you might need, because I am a huge fan of props. And so I'll try to remind you every single class to bring your props, but just bring your props every single practice. And forgive me if I don't remind you, but please bring them every single time. So, finding yourself in a comfortable seat, you can either be seated on your knees, crisscross applesauce, one foot in front of the other, like I have right here. And bring your hands, one hand to your heart and one hand to your chest. Oh, sorry, one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly. And we're going to connect to our breath. Do some light pranayama. So, settle in, your sitting bones nice and rooted. Your gaze softened or your eyes are closed, relaxing the muscles of the face, the jaw. And maybe you notice the breath is kind of collecting more towards the heart center, or maybe it's filling your belly. So maybe you play with sending energy or sending your breath to your belly, or just see how you can already begin to play with where you can send your breath, or it's more of an intention. So don't beat yourself up about anything. Noticing without judgment. So take a couple breaths here. Maybe you let out an audible sigh. But when you're ready, I'm going to count 4 breaths in, and then we're going to do 6 breaths out. So whenever you elongate your exhale, it brings more calming energy to the body. So take a deep breath in and let something go. And then we're going to go inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep counting to yourself. Do a couple more rounds, but I'm going to invite a little bit of silence to our pranayama. So do a couple more on your own. Inhaling for 4, exhaling for 6. Maybe you take this moment to repeat your mantra, or maybe you say a little prayer. Set an intention for your day. Go for one more on your own. And then slowly bring your hands to your heart center. Slightly tuck your chin towards your chest. Maybe you bring your thumbs to your lips and your pointer fingers to your third eye. Bringing back this connection, this union of your mind, your body, and your spirit. Take a deep breath in and exhale. All right, when you're ready, come to your tabletop position. Take your time, bringing your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees beneath your hips. And for today, I invite you to tuck your toes under. Do a couple traditional cat-cows on your own. So inhaling, dropping the belly, exhaling, tucking your chin, rounding the spine. Maybe you find some movement in your neck here as well as you find your spinal flexion. And after you do a couple on your own, send your hips all the way back to your heels. So we're in this basically like active child's pose. So spine is nice and long. And on your inhale, curve your spine, tuck your chin towards your chest until you get to the top. So once your shoulders are stacked above your wrists, then you're going to drop your belly, open your heart forward, send your hips back. So what we call these are spinal waves. So you can choose if your belly is, dropped or rounded. What going forward or back, play round, which feels better in your body today, bringing this curiosity, this exploration right away. So find some spinal waves here. Maybe take a look at me if you need to find some animalistic movement. So bending in the elbows as you continue this wave-like energy, finding some intuitive movement within these structured asanas. Staying curious about your body, staying curious just in general. And then once you've had enough of that, you can untuck your toes and let's squeeze that right knee in towards your chest, towards your nose, knee to nose in a tabletop position, and then plant it between your palms, coming into a low lunge for a minute here. And then we're going to take that back foot and make it more of like a kickstand. So it's going to be spilling off the edge of your mat. And we're going to open up and stand, quote unquote, stand in this kind of like grounded warrior two. So bring your hands out far into like a T shape. Yeah. Your gaze is at your right middle finger. And if this is uncomfortable or if it ever becomes too much, feel free to take your hands to your hips. So in your warrior two, I invite some pulsing movement. So taking this right knee and going over your right ankle, beyond your toes, because we're told all the time in yoga to never let that happen, and there's no reason. Your knees can do that. So allowing your body to go past your toes, maybe see how deep you can go in your supported warrior two. Maybe you even take your heel off the ground. If there's any knee we're going to worry about, it's going to be this left knee here. Maybe you grab a towel or a blanket and you put it underneath. You can even double up on your yoga mat for some extra support as well if it gets a little fussy. So we're not worried about this guy, but if this guy gets fussy, those are your options. Take another beat here, engaging your core, pressing actively into that kickstand foot as you pulse. And then we're going to frame the right foot once again, come into a low lunge for one extra breath. Hands stay on the earth, heart shines forward. And then exhale, plant the palms, curl your toes under, step your right foot back and come into a downward facing dog. So take a moment here, pedal out the feet, the first downward dog of the practice. So heels come towards the earth, but they do not need to touch the ground. Your hands are actively pressing and grabbing away from the mat. Ears are in line with your shoulders. And we pedal out here. Maybe you find stillness, or maybe you come back to those spinal waves. So inhale, coming to your toe tips, curving your spine, tucking your chin, coming all the way into a plank, bending your knees, dropping your belly, and finding your spinal waves in your downward facing dog. Ooh, that's fun. Let's do another one. Inhaling, coming up forward into plank, and then dropping your knees, dropping your belly. Spinal waves once again. Find what feels good in your body today. Maybe you even open up at some point and find a side plank. I explore. I am curious. And then we're going to bring our left knee towards the top of the mat, planting it down between the palms, finding a lunge for a moment here before we take our back foot into that kickstand position and rise up to warrior two, left side. Hands out long in a T shape. And you play with your pulses here, bringing that knee forward and behind your ankle, beyond your toes, really getting into your hips. Maybe you bring your hands to your hips for some support. Otherwise, you can keep the warrior two expression. Maybe you play with extended side angle, bringing your left elbow on top of your left knee, reaching your right hand up and over. Finding a little exploration here. And then when you've had enough of playtime, we're going to find our low lunge once again, frame that left foot, take an extra breath here, shining your heart forward. And then exhale, plant the palms, and we're gonna come into downward facing dog once again. This time, drop your left heel and reach your right heel towards the sky, pointing your right toes down, keeping a square hip to start. To explore further, bend your right knee up and over and basically bring it like behind you on your left side, keeping your weight as equally distributed as you can, keeping your elbows in line with your ears. You're not dumping into your left side. And you can keep this bent knee variation, or maybe you point your toes for more of like a half split. Three-legged dog, open hip. And continue your relationship with your breath. Keep breathing. And then bend in that right knee, bring it in towards your chest, knee to nose, and then plant it right behind your right wrist, coming into about a 45-degree angle. Maybe you have a 90-degree pigeon pose in your practice, but keep those back toes curled under. So your left toes are curled under, and we're gonna come into an active pigeon. So more traditionally, we're always kind of sleeping our pigeons. We're gonna do an active pigeon today. So pressing into your toes, pressing out. If you need a block under your butt cheek, put a block under your bum. Reach your hands up towards the sky if you can, or they can come to your heart, hips, or maybe they stay on the earth for dear life. But keeping your active energy, it's a very, very strong posture. I actually feel like pigeon in general is always at the end, and I always want it like in the middle of my practice. So since I'm a teacher, I get to do what I want. Take one more breath here. You're doing great. This is really a challenging one. Let's try to smile if you can. And then plant your palms and find your way back to downward facing dog. Maybe you do a couple spinal waves. Maybe you pedal out your feet. Or maybe you use these, let's say, 3 breaths for stillness. And then when you're ready, drop your right heel and lift your left heel towards the sky, keeping your hips nice and square to start. Feeling this expression to begin with. Maybe you do a couple circles of the foot. Maybe here's some cracks. And then open hip, bending that left knee towards your right, keeping your shoulders and ears in line, not dumping into our right side body. Open hip, and then maybe you play with pointing your toes, extending that leg all the way out, kind of finding more of like a split variation. Couple breaths to explore here. Nice and strong. And then we're going to bring our knee in towards our nose and then drop our left knee behind our left wrist, coming at a 45 or 90-degree angle, pressing out of the yoga mat with every piece of our body that's touching the mat. The right toes are still tucked under, and you can keep your hands on your mat. Maybe you inhale, reach them all the way up towards the sky, or maybe you bring them to heart center, or of course to your hips. Active pigeon. Yeah. If you're really, really feeling a normal pigeon, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not there. So have fun maybe exploring the active pigeon and seeing how it feels, but you are ultimately in charge. So I can simply invite you. All right, unravel, find your downward facing dog once again. This time, drop your elbows down. So we're going to find dolphin pose. Your hands in line with the shoulders. You can even bring them into like this kind of like a traditional plank posture. And then inhale, drop the left heel down. See if you can reach your right toes towards the sky. So dolphin's also a little challenging. This is basically the heat of our practice today. So switch feet. Now bring your left foot up towards the sky. Do that a couple times on each side, coming to your toe tips, seeing how far in you can bring your toes. Maybe you go to a regular plank and just walk your toes and see how far you can go. You can do that a few times. Maybe you go take a child's pose because you say, girl, I'm tired. Go ahead. You explore your body today. And then we're all going to come to a nice comfortable kneeling position for a second and just shake it out. Shake out your hands and maybe let something go. And then we've got something fun coming up next. I hope you find it fun. So come to your bum after you're done shaking it out. And we're going to, there's 2 fun things. Find a Navasana pose. So your knees are going to be at about a 90-degree angle. And your hands can come behind your legs or out in front of you or at your heart center. So we're going to find a little flow here. So we're going to go from Navasana. Oops, sorry. I think I just hit my mic. Navasana to Baddha Konasana. So heels come together, your feet like a book, hands to heart center, and extend your spine out long. So you're going to lean forward, keeping your spine long, and see how far you can go without rounding. And then come back to Navasana. And then you're going to exhale, open your legs wide, hands come to your heart center. Lean, lean, lean forward, active energy in your toes, pressing your palms, spine nice and long. So that's the little mini sequence. We're going to come back to Navasana. Exhale, Baddha Konasana, lean forward with your long spine. Inhale, Navasana. And then exhale, wide-legged forward fold with that active long spine pressing into your palms. Do around 2 or 3 on your own. Inhale, Navasana, Baddha Konasana, Navasana, wide-legged forward fold. When you're in your wide-legged forward fold, I invite you to think about your hips actively coming out. So there's internal and external rotation. So hey, when I point my toes in, that's internal rotation. When I bring them out, that's external rotation. So really diving into that external rotation of your hips. Maybe you take an extra breath in your forward fold playing with it. Maybe you've never played with that before. It keeps your hips nice and safe. And then the next time you find yourself in Navasana, we're going to rock and roll. Yes, it's exactly like how it sounds. So maybe your hands come behind your thighs or they come to the earth, but we're literally going to rock and roll. So hopefully you get like a nice little spine massage, a nice little spinal massage. The feet tend to like kind of want to go into this Baddha Konasana, so I thought, hey, you're doing your Navasana, rocking, Baddha Konasana. So do a couple, and then I challenge you. And if you need to use your hands, go ahead, but try not to use your hands. You're going to rock all the way up to standing. Maybe you did it and it felt amazing, so you do it again. And then once you're done playing, we will all meet in Tadasana at the top of our mat. Your feet can either be hip distance or they can be toes touching together. Hands at your sides or at your heart center. Bring bring your feet a little wider than your hips. So about like, I suppose like a 2 to 3 foot stance. And we're gonna do some spinal rinses. So you're literally just gonna take a look at the camera if you need. These swishes of your arms. Some people call it knocking on heaven's door, but you're literally gonna just connect to your breath and find a rhythm of speed that feels good, but we're just gonna rinse out the spine. You might feel really silly, and that's kind of the point, but it's actually like, it's just really good for you. A healthy spine is like the key to life, pretty much. But find your rhythm, feel silly, let loose. Who cares? So who cares? It's honestly good for you. So like, let go of any judgment of looking weird. You'll feel free, I swear, I promise. And then start to slow it down. Maybe you caught a smile, or maybe caught a whiff of some joy. And bring it to an end, keeping your feet, my goodness, a little wider than your hips. And you're gonna slowly come all the way down to Malasana, your yogi squat. So hands at the earth. Maybe you can only come onto the toes for today. That's fine. Rocking like a little bit side to side here. Maybe you grab a yoga block and put it underneath your bum. But we really want to keep our spine nice and long. So notice if you're kind of hunched here, the blocks can be really nice to ensure your spine is nice and safe. So bring your hands to heart center. I explore. Maybe you come back to your intention. Maybe you just give thanks for your body in this practice, this journey. Day one. Day one. Maybe you're excited. So when you're done, when you're ready, come back to a comfortable seat of your choice, which is where I will meet you. Maybe you take a couple releasing breaths here. Maybe you shake something out again. Maybe you shake out the legs and just make some audible sounds. Whew. But that is all I have for you today. I cannot express enough how excited I am about this little journey we're taking together. And please feel free to leave comments and questions or anything on the YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram. And yeah, no, I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads, new videos. And I really hope you kind of had fun with that practice and you bring some of that curious, explorative energy to your yoga asanas a little more, because I just feel like they're so much fun. And yeah, I cannot wait to see you tomorrow. And once again, thank you for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow.